Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Better Opinion. I am once again your host, Kevin, or at least you think I am. I might actually be the Skinwalker now. I am supposedly joined once again by my co-host, Manser. Manser, your skin looks lovely today.
My skin is a bit worn. I don't think Skinwalkers should really consider my skin. It's been used by quite a few other Skinwalkers. It's like Michael right there. I think he looks like he has a lot of room for a Skinwalker such as yourself. It's like, listen, I'm sure. No,
well, we can talk about this later. We can pick this back up.
But
maybe you should moisturize. But besides the subject of skinwalking, I believe before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about the subject of game companies and companies in general, and kind of how a lot of the names we used to know and love and respect have kind of gone downhill. They've kind of fallen apart.
Yeah,
You were using Microsoft as one example, Ubisoft.
I used to really like Microsoft Gaming, the company. That's their name. No, that's the name they wanted to have. They should have gone with that because it represents them better. Xbox. I'm sorry, that old company that used to be
that
good.
broken piece of shit. Yeah.
It feels like a lot of game companies, they've been crumbling for a while now, but now it seems that people actually are seeing that there's not much to be excited about. For a long time, seeing EA, Ubisoft, or Microsoft, even recently PlayStation on a name, it hasn't brought much excitement. There's only one game from PlayStation recently that has excited me, but this is because I'm a fighting game player. It's the Marvel Tokon thing.
You know, it's interesting that you bring up PlayStation because I wasn't thinking about them at first. You know, I was thinking about, Microsoft and Ubisoft and stuff. EA, I used to, hearing the EA games, I was like, oh, it's going to be good.
And the ding.
Yeah, not anymore. But I think PlayStation is a great example because I loved my PlayStation 2, and despite its problems, I enjoyed my PlayStation 3 and even 4, I used to think that PlayStation really had good products, good stuff. PlayStation 2 was such a great system.
Yes.
And I played so many good games on it. And now I kind of think the company's a joke. Every game that is exclusive to them in many cases isn't even made by them, and if it is made by them, it's bad. I don't like to use certain terminology because it aligns me with a political group, but I do feel like there's been like a focus on trying to create narratives that are very strange in their character designs. You look at like Horizon Forbidden West and you're just like, why is this old man in leaf underwear talking to me? You know what I mean? Like,
It was an interesting concept that in this futuristic world, the old gods are technically just AI from the old world. But I think they made the mistake of making the main character also AI, which is
that was a little bit of a mistake. Yeah, no, you're right. You kind of derailed me there. Yeah,
it's like, am I wrong? Because like she looks like a robot.
She does look like a robot, and in the second game, like a potato, which they specifically said they uglified her on purpose. They're like, she was too pretty, and I'm like, she's modeled after a real person who is pretty. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, PlayStation's going in a real weird way. I hadn't actually thought about when I played it, but the original God of War, a friend of ours, I think Red Riot, was playing, and I realized he didn't play the game for like a good hour. And even when he like first fought someone, technically, well, I guess there were like those like mini people he fought.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun.
No.
It felt like you were smashing people multiple times.
This is something I feel just is like a lot of games, right? And like, because like even ignoring narrative, which the thing I was avoiding saying is I hate the word like woke because it's misused, and it's used by certain balding old people that can't finish a game. And it's used derogatorily, but there is sort of like a behavioral pattern of like, you see it in like Dragon Age, you see it in Forbidden West, there's this decision making and character design where you're like, I don't know what you're going for here. This isn't compelling and it's wasting time. But to your point, these same games also just don't have compelling gameplay.
I think there's this mistake that in order to make a good narrative, you have to take control away from the player. And I would disagree with that.
I would disagree.
And one good example is an old Ubisoft game, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. That was almost all like gameplay. Very rarely did you have a cutscene, but that is still probably one of the best in-game narratives to date.
You've never played RimWorld, right?
No.
Yeah. So RimWorld is interesting because it's a little game. We have little pawn-looking fellas, and you're making a colony, and But when people talk about their colonies, there is no story to RimWorld. The story is you crashed on a planet. Good luck, right? And it's what you make of it. But in the course of the game, people come up. The events that unfold create a story, and people who like RimWorld can sit there and talk for hours about the story of their colony, what happened, what it became. They have all these stories. It is 100% you are playing the whole time, and much of what's created is unless your storyteller is Randy Random, where he has destroyed your bedrooms by dropping milk in for the 5th time. The storyteller is just sort of making things happen based off of sort of a scale, an event's going to happen based off of this wealth level, this time period, but it's very, most of the control is in your control the whole time,
And that's a very interesting point because like in most storytelling, how telling the person viewing it what's happening is bad form. I feel like in video games, that's very similar in that taking control away and just telling story in a cutscene rather than just having it you playing the story is also bad form.
No, I hate when you are they're going to give you a cutscene, right? And they've given you cutscenes before and you had no control. And then all of a sudden they're just like, react now. React right now. Make a decision. You have 30 seconds to make a decision. And someone was like, well, we need to add stuff to the cutscenes to make it engaging. And I go, no, it's not engaging. If I'm going to watch the movie, let me just watch the movie. Don't make me suddenly have to react. I'm going to take a moment to take a drink. I'm going to let go of the controller. I'm going to chill. Don't make me suddenly have to
Yeah.
Or don't make it a cutscene. Just have people be talking.
Or do what God of War has done since the beginning. Go into this set scenes or you press X, then you do the quarter circle forward, quarter circle back. The new God of Wars don't do that.
Well, the new God of Wars aren't God of War. The new God of Wars are a completely different game starring Kratos from God of War.
Yeah, it's very weird. I feel like they made a different character because very rarely does his past come up. Maybe once. And then you see the God of War little knives that he has.
The Blades of Chaos, yeah.
And then
little knives. He calls these forearm-sized blades.
Listen, when I see them in the original game, it's very small from a bird's eye view. He's swinging them around.
The size of a torso.
Yes. Very large.
Very large. They are. I want to emphasize, I'm not letting go of the idea that these are knives, but they're really big. You mean like a sword? No, like a really long knife. Yes. So like a short sword? No, more like if you took a knife and you just extended it real long, made it wider. For really big butter.
A very sharp piece of metal.
I have the world's largest stick of butter, and I need something for that.
Yes. So his very small sword.
Oh, now they're small swords. So they're not large knives; they're small swords.
Okay, very medium-sized blades. What?
I hate you.
Swords of chaos.
His blades.
Okay, so the point we're making here about the dad of No Longer War
is the fact that it feels like his past doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I would agree. It feels like the past is more like, you know what it feels like? It's not that his past doesn't matter. Instead, it's just this thing he won't get over that he's just still upset about. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, how many times have you resolved? How many times? Because every game was just. It's first game, you actually killed your family. Oh, second game, you actually killed your family. Oh, this is so upsetting. You know, like each game was just like, by the way, remember when you killed your family? Oh.
I wonder, one thing I was wondering is, has he ever told his wife that his previous wife's and daughter's ashes are on his body?
I have no clue. You know, it is one of those things where it feels like people don't know how to write anything new. Like you could have his past be still relevant,
yeah,
but you could do it by like making it not just the same. Yeah, this is a grave bat. It's like, no, okay, homie, like let's be real here. In the first game, it was like a big. You killed the God of War. You killed him again. Then you killed his dad, who's also your dad, and you did it, and you really enjoyed it, and all your problems are gone. Right? You killed all of your problems, and now things are fine. So do we still have to retread this same? Like, I regret my past thing? Like, how many times do you have to regret your past? Did you really regret your past when you were, like, having sex with concubines while you were the God of War? You didn't really look like you cared about it at all. It only seems like you regret your past when someone comes and backhands you for getting a little too uppity.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like. He only cares about his past when someone's finally being like, you're kind of a bitch. And he's like, oh, my dead wife. Am I wrong?
No. The problem is it's not even about Kratos anymore. It's about Boy.
Well, yeah, it is about Boy, which I think this is a storytelling mistake in general. Because I ran into this when dealing with, I see this with like a lot of media where they're like continuing old media, is they try to introduce you to new protagonist, and new protagonist is just like, we're going to focus on them, but they're not like a fun character. They're like irritating. You know, people always talk about how people didn't like Miles Morales Spider-Man for a long time until they made him a character that like was relatable for everyone and didn't feel like it. Because the original him kind of just felt like someone said, my Spider-Man isn't Peter Parker and he's a lot better.
But he always like references Peter Parker all the time.
That's the thing. Well, the newer ones from like Spider-Verse, you really feel like he's his own guy, and you really feel like I hate using the word earned because people latch on that and get pissy, but who cares? It feels like he earned the right to be called Spider-Man.
Yeah, because that was the whole story arc, is that he wasn't sure if he was up for this, and it was a choice he had to make himself.
And it also didn't feel like, because like I said, the old one, it was like, it always felt that they're like, well, I made Spider-Man, but he's bad. He's the cool. This is the better. My Spider-Man's the cooler Spider-Man. Mom said it's my turn to design the better Spider-Man. That's what it felt like. It felt petulant, you know?
Yeah.
It felt like you are disrespecting the old character because you want yours to be the cooler one. So I gave mine laser beams and superpowers that are better.
Yeah.
Is like, but the new one, it was like, no, he feels like just as bumbly and incompetent as Peter Parker was in the beginning. And it feels like he, earned his position rather than you just being told this is the better one. And that's a writing mistake in general that I think happens a lot with characters. It's like, why do I like this character? Why should I like this character? Other than you telling me that they're the main character now.
The problem comes with that you have a character that people already like. Why are you changing them? Why are you introducing this new character? I want to talk. It's like,
yeah, I'm not interested in
that's my guy. I want to talk about my guy.
Yeah, I want to talk about my guy. Yeah, no, exactly. Like it would be like if you were playing. I mean, Halo's a dead IP. Microsoft took a fat dump on it multiple times, and then blew it up with a bazooka.
It's impressive how well they fucked up Halo when it feels like it was so hard for them to fuck up.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just sitting there and I'm like, how'd you manage that? You already knew what to do. Yeah. You already have everything. Just do more of that.
Master Chief doesn't even say many lines. He just says a bunch of cool one-liners. Just do that.
Yeah, you don't need to do much of anything. And then they were just like, watch this. I got a great idea. What if I destroyed my entire financial source of income? Like, but it's a dead IP. But imagine, if you will, that it wasn't. And they said, all right, we know you loved Captain King, right? Now here is like God Admiral. And you know, I mean, like you have Master Chief. Here he is. Now here's our new character, young, quippy, attitude-filled Spartan 2. It's another Spartan. It's a different one, and this one is stronger, faster, smarter. They're the tech guy. They're also the action hero. They have a higher rank, and you don't ask why they were not here up till now. But this is your protagonist from now on. So I purposefully am saying protagonist, thinking of Red Letter Media.
Yeah.
Something called the protagonist.
Well, Halo did something different, didn't they? They add the React streamer to Halo.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, who is that person they put in everything? It's like, what? You are in so-and-so situation? That's crazy.
That's insane.
He's
insane.
She was in that Nicolas Cage vampire movie and all of that stuff.
Oh, God, I don't remember.
But like her only character is that she is the React streamer. That's her. Tell me she's not.
No, you're not wrong.
Because all she does is like reinstate, wow, what you just told me is insane. How are you going to deal with it? And then that's all she does the entire movie or whatever she's in.
I feel like that's a thing. You ever notice that there's a lot of these like certain famous people that you're always just like, why are they in stuff? You know, and they're just always in stuff. And like, I remember that about Felicia Day. Do you remember Felicia Day? For a while, she was always in like Supernatural and all these different TV shows. And she wasn't in there permanently, but she'd have these cameos. And it was like the same thing every time. It was like Felicia Day shows up. For some reason, she's important. She's a quirky chungus. And then like she makes out with a girl for some reason. And then like that was the episode. And you're just kind of like, who sat down and said, yes,
I think
I'm in on this? And why do they keep showing up?
Because they see these people are popular. They see them reacting to things as popular. So now they are in media reacting to things to make that media more popular.
It always just turns me off. But I think that sort of highlights, and I mean, we managed to very quickly derail early in the conversation. A record for us at how fast we got away from the main topic.
Listen, if there's one thing, this is a very rare occurrence. We
stay on topic consistently. We're good at that.
Yeah.
We never lose track. No, but I think this is a good example of kind of what I think is weird is there's this decision-making process that exists in creating something. And almost every company you used to be able to trust, and even people that you used to trust, because you could say, well, the people changed. Yeah, but those people left, started their own companies, and then made all the wrong decisions. So like, what is happening where so many trusted sources of things keep consistently in shitifying?
Even like Nintendo. Nintendo was always shitty, but they were never this shitty.
Well, they were shitty in certain ways and really good in others. But the problem is that the things that they're good at now are not worth putting up with the shit. It's like, oh, you're going to charge me more for less, and you're going to like sue things that I like. You know, everyone's like, they're such a litigious company. I'm like, yeah, that's a bad thing. And I think a lot of people used to kind of accept that because they love their Marios. I don't think I've talked to a Nintendo defender recently. I feel like in the past couple years, all the Nintendo defenders I know have either died out or become Nintendo antis. So many people I know are just like, yeah, I've been disappointed enough. I don't want any more.
Yeah, I'm not that much big of a Nintendo guy, but I know Phil Spencer, I feel like, has really soured people, especially recent.
Spencer?
The guy from Xbox? I'm pretty sure that's...
Well, that's the Xbox guy. We're talking about Nintendo.
Well, I'm giving a different example.
Oh.
Phil Spencer is like, recently they laid off a bunch of people. They canceled an MMO that apparently Phil Spencer himself really loved. It's like, so a lot of these, Phil Spencer brought in a bunch of game companies, and all of a sudden they're just disappearing one by one.
The company that made Hi-Fi Rush was dissolved.
They were dissolved
after they made a ton of money.
Because they weren't developing something at the time. They were planning to make Hi-Fi Rush 2.
Right. So here's what happened. I know exactly what happened. And it was funny because someone explained it to me another person from a corporate world explained it to me and was like, so that's why it makes sense. And I then turned around and said, all right, let's pull up the spreadsheet and do some math. And what happened is that they're looking at this spreadsheet, right? And the corporate idea is, well, we have to cut spending. We have all these things, we have to cut spending. So they looked at all of the things they own and they said, well, these companies are not, they are in development, right? Like these subsections of our organization are all in development.
Yeah.
They are working on something. These all have pitched and are preparing. These ones are in the ideas phase. They're doing what's called pitching. They haven't even finished pitching yet. They're coming up with ideas and pitching the ideas. We've already sunk money and we're approaching a product on these ones, so we keep. These ones are still a step ahead, so we're going to keep most of those too. All of these are actively just consuming money and are not in the process of producing. Let's get rid of them. If you are some big wig looking at big numbers and you have to cut costs, that sounds logical. Now, I sat down and I said, all right, let's look at the collective value over the past 10 years of all of these groups, right? Now, let's identify which ones you got rid of and which ones you kept. You have made a bad choice. The ones you kept have consistently failed, and the ones that you got rid of recently and consistently have made good money, right? Your long-term outlook is bad. 8-ball, not looking good. You know?
Yeah, it was like, who was it? It was the people who made the vampire game were probably ready to develop again. Arcane.
Yeah.
They screwed that up. I don't know what happened with that stuff because
I mean, like I don't remember exactly everything. This is a pretty old conversation that I had with someone. It was a former coworker of mine back when I was a corporate desk jockey. We were out to drinks one night and we were talking about it. But you know, the thing is like the problem is that they're so disconnected. People think these people are clever and that they know what they're doing. And it's always a matter of, you know what you're doing, but you lack the critical ability to truly go risk versus reward. You're saying these people were already spending and they're already producing. Oh, yeah, but this isn't going to make money. This studio's last project lost you money. What makes you believe their next one that they're making right now is going to make money? Now, this one isn't actively producing, they're pitching, but so far they've hit home runs. So you can assume that their money sink is eventually going to be profitable because they've been consistent.
I think the big problem is for most of these companies, they started in a position where people already wanted their products. For Microsoft specifically, everyone's already on Windows. They don't need to sell you on Windows anymore. So anything they make,
Windows 11's working real hard to change that.
That's the thing, is like they already in their minds, they don't need to sell you anything. All they have to do is make more money off of you.
Right.
So that's all they have to do. They don't know how to sell people products. So these people are also in charge of gaming. They have to constantly sell you on new games and on the Xbox brand. They're kind of slowly giving up on the Xbox brand.
Well, you know what? This is true, I think, for every company. I think a lot of people who ran companies live in the past. Yeah. I think that the culture around media and gaming, when, and I'm not just talking about nostalgia here, right? Mm-hmm. I think when I was young, I'm not young, I'm 35, right? Like I'm not old, I'm not young, right? When I was young, when I was in my teens, 20 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. The culture around media and gaming was different. The target audience was different. The way these things were consumed was different. The way the technology existed was different. Yeah. And the way people interacted with this stuff was different. People weren't as online. There weren't wikis all over the place. People didn't play one game for their entire life as consistently as people do now. Mm-hmm. Someone says, I'm a gamer. What they mean is they're running the 1 trillionth game challenge run, right? Lots of media around it is around those kinds of people. I'm doing my latest speed run of Grungy's Revenge. And so, back then we had E3 and it was about branding. People wanted to wear the stuff on their body. They identified with it. They wanted to hear the really cool mainstream music in their video game. They wanted to, they loved the big show and they loved all of the merch and the swag and the culture. They had G4 TV. You got all these things that now, while kids are still a target audience, before it was young people only. Now it's mature people who've experienced a lot of it are also your target audience, and in some cases your primary audience. So what's happened is they're still running off of 20-year-old ways of doing things, and they don't know how to convince a more educated, more experienced audience base to engage with what they're making.
I think a different thing also is more indie stuff is just getting more not only
you don't
exposure,
you don't need a
more
major company.
popularity. So if you play Fortunate Son again, some people might not even know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you play Radioactive for like the 10th time. Is like, yeah, like people know who Imagine Dragons are, but they're kind of tired of it.
Yeah, they're kind of bored of it. Yeah, actually, I was thinking about this because I've been playing Sea of Stars, and I love the music in Sea of Stars. I think it's very fun and very interesting, and even though it's not complicated, but it's all original to that game. And I actually don't think I'd be excited if Combat started and like, Welcome to the Jungle started playing, unless it was done as a joke.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Executives don't understand this, that some of the hypest music is not popular mainstream music. It's music that I've heard from old games. Like Streets of Rage 2, I don't know if you've ever heard the music. That music is insane for like 16-bit shit. What that man did with 16-bit is amazing. And if you play it, people might not know where it's from, but they'll really like it. Because
it reminds me, I was streaming Sea of Stars the other day, and I got to this one zone, some music started playing, and someone in my chat was like, "Oh, this is from The Messenger. This song is from The Messenger." Messenger was a hit game that studio made a while back.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so they were like, "That's what this is from," right? But like, I've never played The Messenger, right? And so like, I didn't know that, but like, people were excited because they loved that, right?
Yeah. Because people are finding things to like since the internet is so open. All these indie stuff is just becoming more and more mainstream. It's like all of this like chiptune stuff, the lo-fi hip hop. That's not something you'd hear from a mainstream music company, but that's very popular.
It's very available.
Yeah.
Availability is a big part of a lot of that. But I think that what it really goes into is that it is a person. This is something I've run into with we've talked about some of the like there's, that game that I've talked about, and I've talked about the people who run it not really seem to understand how to run something. They don't really know how to balance the idea of like what I want versus like what I'm going to get, what I'm trying, what I headcanon want versus what realistically creates a good experience. I have these two wants. I want people to play my game, and I want this story. People don't like my story, so they don't engage with the game the way I want them to. This upsets me.
Yeah.
Right? They don't understand. It's like, well, this isn't good. Yeah, but I'd rather that. So, but then later you're upset that it's not working how you want. So what is my point? My point is that same thing happens at companies. I think that people, they do things for a long time. They become successful at certain things. They get promoted up to their level of incompetence. And maybe they do a really good job. They're not incompetent yet. But enough time goes by and things change and they are not adaptable. And then you see this slow descent into madness.
There's one really good example on the Xbox, I think, showcase. They were playing all these different games, and at the end, we have a special surprise. And what did they show? They showed Call of Duty. No one gives a shit.
Nobody gives a shit.
Everyone knows Call of Duty is coming. It's not like the old days where everyone was like hyped as fuck when like Call of Duty was
what's a
announced.
strange behavior? This you saying this makes me think of this. What's a strange behavior? Every time I've noticed this. So I don't like watching these shows. I hate Sony Direct. I hate or Nintendo Direct. I hate Sony whatever Slot Fest. I hate Xbox Showcase. I hate the Game Awards. And everyone I talk to goes, "Me too. It's shit." And then I'm like, "Oh, so like, is it anything good?" No. Okay. So then I'm streaming one day and someone goes, "Oh, sorry, I wasn't here because I was watching the Sony Slop Fest." And I was like, "Why?" I wanted to see it. Was it good? No. Has it been good in 5 years? No. What are you doing? Like, they have I think there's almost a mistake that happens. Everyone doesn't like these things. Everyone shits on the Game Awards. Everyone shits on these showcases and whatever festivals and, the piss extravaganzas. Nobody likes them. Nobody says they're good. Everyone is disappointed when they leave, but they're so habitually used to doing it that they keep watching it. The people making it see, dude, we got 1 trillion bergrillion viewers and we made money off of ads. That's amazing. Let's keep it up. And they're making money off of ads and they're losing goodwill each time. And they don't understand that they're losing goodwill because they see the ad money, they see the viewership. So they're disconnected from the future consequence of one day someone's going to make something else that isn't bad and they're going to lose it all.
I think the problem is big companies don't understand goodwill.
Big Will. Tell me more about Big William.
It's like they don't understand Big Will and how powerful he is. He will bring down the industry. But yeah, I don't think they understand goodwill because they can't put it on a spreadsheet.
You can't put goodwill on a spreadsheet.
They kind of don't understand users' incentive towards their products, especially if they put out a bad one, because all they'll see is that they sold really well. What they won't see is how many people didn't know that they could refund will now not look at the next game that they're going to release.
Yeah, it reminds me of, I talked about this I think in the last episode we recorded, so I won't go on it for very long, but I brought up the Han Solo thing, right, where they made all this money off of The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, and so they thought they were invincible, and then they released Han Solo and it lost money and they panicked because in a million years they never imagined that they could lose people could look at it and just go, I don't want this, right? And I've run into that sort of the issue of not being able to put something on a spreadsheet is a pretty common one. I used to run into it a lot, where I would be trying to explain, and I still run into this with people who are like math people or at least believe they're math people, where I have to turn things into a numerical value for them to understand the logic. They cannot conceptualize abstract concepts. They need you to turn it into something non-abstract before they can understand it. So I'm sitting here explaining to my boss why something is not only do we know it's a bad idea, but I can further theorize about exactly how bad of an idea it is. And I'm explaining it and explaining it and explaining it, and he just doesn't get it. And he's creating a straw man of me saying, oh, you just don't want to do it. And I go, no, well, yes, I don't want to do it, but you think it's because I'm lazy, and I'm telling you it's a bad idea. But once I create a spreadsheet and I say, let us imagine, if you will, that I have 100 points worth of productivity. Now, this thing takes 80 points of productivity, but we also have 100 points of customer experience. And this is the cost. It can only go down. You start at 100, and as they experience it, it can only go down. You're hoping it goes down as little as possible. These things interacting will take up 80 points of my time that I cannot devote to anything else. But the customer, who averages about, drops down to like by 10 to 20 points by the end of their experience, are going to have it go down by 50 points. Is 80 points of my time worth 50 points of their positive experience for no additional profit?
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh. I remember, because he didn't want to admit I was right, but he left, and later, when explaining to someone else why we weren't doing something, used my argument. Now, that was very vague, and I was being very quick about it because, like, I'm not going to waste your time with the specifics. But it was the idea of, like, I had to, like, quantify my time and user experience to explain why this idea wasn't good, even though if I explained it to you without that, you'd probably get it.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of the reason why these companies will just fail. They're just going to, because I don't believe in Ubisoft. I haven't believed in as we said before, I don't believe in Ubisoft anymore. I don't believe in EA. I don't believe in Microsoft. And now I don't believe in PlayStation anymore.
Yeah, when I look for games, I basically ignore mainstream games. When I play a mainstream game and say that was good, I'm always like, that's surprising. But they're all the same. They all feel the same. They all look kind of, there's this, I don't know what the right term is, like a cleanness.
Yeah.
There's just some, even when they're not clean, when they're really messy, they feel sterile. They feel
Safe.
yeah, safe. Not even photorealistic, because I'm more describing a feeling rather than an actual visual
Yeah.
experience.
Because it feels like they want to merge towards what the executives believe will be the best product based on metrics, not based on what would be cool.
I used to love bonfires in Dark Souls. Now I'm playing fucking Jedi Survivor, and there's like a rune on the ground. It saves the game. You can level up here, and it resets enemies. I'm like, oh, it's a bonfire. I'm just at a bonfire for the 5th time. Every game has bonfires now. Like, I don't want them anymore.
What a cool and novel idea
When
to
I-
be
when I
done in
s-
Star Wars.
When I sat down in Dark Souls and there was like phantoms of other people sitting at the bonfire, and these were like little checkpoints, I was like, oh, this is like really cool, because it was like new. Now it's like, why are there bonfires in my shooter game? Why are there bonfires in my Star Wars game?
Because people love bonfires.
It all feels sterile. The soul is missing. I usually hate the word soul, but the soul is missing. The
Yeah.
thing that made bonfires cool wasn't that it was a checkpoint in the middle of the area that respawns enemies. Right? It was like that this small little flame in this otherwise hostile world, and the room that it was in was safe.
You know, I always get very confused as when people say games have become more expensive to make. And my question is always, why?
What are you spending on?
Yeah, because who is Gakko Studios? They make all the Yakuza games. They use the same city every time. They reuse all the
it
stuff.
doesn't even look better.
Yeah, but people still love the games. Dark Souls games, they reuse assets all the fucking time. And you know what? I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Why wouldn't they do that?
People always mistook my argument. I used to complain about reused assets in Dark Souls 3, and people were like, well, they've been using reused assets forever. I go, no. You're not listening. I'm not talking about the Dark Souls 2 or Dark Souls 1 enemies that they're reusing. I'm talking about the Bloodborne enemies who operate off of a different rule set. Bloodborne enemies are fast and aggressive, and Souls games are slow and meticulous. Your player and the enemy you're fighting are operating off of different rules. That was my problem. You could always tell which enemies in Dark Souls 3 were ported from Bloodborne, their skeleton, and which ones were ported from a Souls game, just by their moves and their reaction times. And people don't understand. It's like, there's nothing wrong with reused assets.
Especially because when Dark Souls does that for many enemies, the bosses, they put a lot of effort in. No boss looks like a Dark Souls boss. No boss in any other game feels like it has
Even
as
when
much...
they try.
Yeah, even when they try, looks like they have as much like twitchy energy as a Dark Souls boss looks. And that's always been like the very cool thing about Dark Souls bosses is the presentation.
Right. I would agree with you on that. I think that's true. And I think that, what the core of what we're kind of talking about here is that it feels like corporations and media have, I hate to say it because it sounds like a political talking point, they've become too big and they've festered. And I don't even mean that in a socio-political way. I think internally they're so bureaucratic, and all of their employees are no longer creatives. They're all just people who are here to run a business, not make the product, that you've ended up sort of going in a circle of just like circling a drain. You know what I mean? Like you're no longer here to make a thing. You're here to run a business, and in doing so, you're just kind of creating like square blocks.
And a good example of this is how they use IPs. IPs aren't used to make unique experiences anymore. They're used to make the new big thing, the new Halo Battle Royale, or why is Halo an open world game?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's they don't understand the core of what they're working with. I think that's sort of it. They don't understand the thing that they're working with. And because they cycle employees, they get rid of the people who did understand the thing they were creating. So now, you know, I actually was thinking about this now, because I asked the question earlier. It's like, even those people who leave, they go start other studios, and what they make also sucks. And then I was like, well, you know, it's because it's not the whole package. You had a group of people who all understood one assignment, and you've separated them all. And now they're not making the same game anymore because they're no longer bouncing off of each other in the same way.
I'm always so confused when like big game companies is like, this is taking so long. Let's remove people who know things. It's like, why would you do this?
Why would you do that?
It's like,
it's taken too long. Well, so what? Do you think new people who don't understand it are going to take less long?
They're going to take much. That's actually what happened to Call of Duty. The people who used to work on Call of Duty worked on Titanfall, and then new people who liked Call of Duty at some point are now relearning the things the old Call of Duty devs do. The problem is like a lot of new developers don't get the chance to learn things well because the old people are leaving, so
they're not there to teach them,
and so they can't mentor them because they're tired of making Call of Duty over and over fucking again, and the new people have to figure shit out all over again, and then people are like, why is this a problem? This was solved like 3 games.
Why are all these issues here? Why is this menu the way it is? What the fuck is wrong with you? You know, yeah, no, I absolutely agree. It's just this lack of understanding of what knowledge is, what the thing is that you're creating, and people at the top who make decisions who probably shouldn't be making them. You know, I've run into that a lot lately. I was having that conversation with some friends the other day. I was like, the problem with this thing is that these people, they don't have the wherewithal. We were talking about a community, and I was like, the problem is that the people who run this, they started out as just a small group, and now they have to run a community of hundreds of people, and they don't have the testicular fortitude to run a community, and they don't have the logical understanding of what they do produces what result, because they're used to how it was when it was smaller. The things that they do now worked when it was smaller, and they don't have the competencies for once it's bigger.
Yeah, they need to learn from like coding developers, from larger development companies, how they spread up teams like Google or something.
I also just think in general that I think big companies are kind of the antithesis of creativity.
Yeah.
You know, something I brought up off camera before was, while it's not a small company, Larian Studios is not a big AAA behemoth. It is not Microsoft, right? And they produced something really good, but that is because, you know, they have one guy who understands what they're making, calling the shots, right? And they are doing one thing with one goal in mind. They're all on the same page, and there's no one that they answer to who is going to force them to do things different from how they do it. The guy at the very top, he is on the same page as the guys at the bottom.
And he believes in it.
Right. And he's looking forward to enjoying the thing that they are creating.
Yeah.
So big, when we talk about big, I don't just mean like number of heads. I mean sort of the girth of the organization.
The problem is the people in charge of managing these people doesn't give a shit about video games.
No.
They give a shit about video game names. They hear Rainbow Six
and they're like, I can't wait for Rainbow Six because then my
Battle
paycheck
Royale
will be big.
I can't wait for Rainbow Six Battle Royale.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. Battle Royale is big. Let's do it in Rainbow Six. Oh shit, extraction shooters are big. Let's do it in Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six is our well-known IP. It brings in a lot of numbers. We'll use Rainbow Six to make this new thing so that it has consumer like exposure, and then they'll buy a lot of it, and then people who love Rainbow Six see, what the fuck is this shit?
You want to know an interesting one? I got one for you. So I don't know if I talked about this in another episode, but I played the Dune Awakening game, right? What a strange experience. I like survival slop. I like multiplayer survival slop. I like base building. For those things, it's pretty fun. Giant worm, kind of funny. Seeing someone get eaten by a giant worm, very funny. You know, but as you're playing it, you kind of go like, this this doesn't feel like someone this neither feels like someone set out to make a multiplayer game nor someone set out to make a Dune game. What it feels like is someone said, what are all of the features that are a popular game, and what's a popular IP? Because like I thought about this when I was thinking about the classes. I'm working on a review now that the dust is settled. Everyone rushes theirs out, and I was like, now the dust is settled, I kind of want to give like my thoughts on Dune as a review. But one of the things I wrote in my script is I was like, the classes are a prime example. They're not really classes. They're skill trees. And what are they? Well, they were trying really hard to be. It's like what's a Dune thing? Okay, well we got sword guy, a gun guy. Sword guy has like the slow blade, because that was a line in the movie. The slow blade gets through the shield, right? So we got to remember that. They don't forget to tell you that multiple times. And then we've got magic women, right? Bene Gesserit, that's in the thing, right? So like make that a class. But Bene Gesserit in Dune are like these mystical women who work in the back scenes. Let's just make this person like a wizard, right? And then they're like, well, we need another class. What are we going to do? I don't know. I designed like a drone that shoots people. Great. Call it Mentat. And I'm like, wait, the accountant? Your fourth class is the accountant? Oh my God. Right. You know what that's what I'm saying. Like Mentats are just human calculators. Like, why is that your fourth combat class? You couldn't come up with anything else.
They made Dune Monopoly. That's what they did.
They did. Well, because the word Mentat is in Dune. Yeah. So that'll be the fourth class. And you keep running into that. You keep running into things where it's just like, this is a thing.
It's just Dune-themed survival slop.
It is a Dune-themed survival slop. It's well made, right? It all functions. I would say it's not very deep, but fun. But then you even look at it, you look like someone sat down and was like, okay, I'm going to make this world. I'm going to make like quests and enemies and resources and like a progression path. And then someone's like, okay, but we need PvP. So we're going to change the story. This is going to be an alternate universe. And instead it's going to be Jawline Man versus the Fat People. And those are the two factions. And I am absolutely sure we will have faction balance, because when you get to choose between Jim Jawline or Too Fat to Walk, it's a tough choice.
That's a good contrast is Helldivers, which is Starship Troopers' similar story, but it really commits to its bit.
Yeah.
It really commits to you are disposable soldier man. Go fight these horrific bug creatures and die horrifically to call in another guy who is not a clone.
It's definitely not your clone. We don't have 100,000 of them in the ship storage.
Yeah, we didn't cause this. We don't need the bugs for oil. We just really hate them.
We just don't like. They're communists.
And I love that. They are very good at doing that. They've been good at doing that since the original Helldivers. Mm-hmm. And it feels like a lot of the new stuff is just slapped together tags.
Yeah, it's just slapped together tags. That's exactly it. And it's like the base building in Dune, pretty good. The the combat, nothing special, but yeah, it's fine. The getting to explore around the map, the flying, that's fine, right? Like the worst part is the main story quests for the first half, because they tried to throw in all of this Fremen mysticism. So I remember in the story, it's like you're doing all these quests, and every time it's just some woman made out of sand calling you Wally from the movie Wally, and she's just saying some made up Middle Eastern phrases. Bila Kaifa. You know what I mean? Like it's supposed to be Arabic derivative is what the Fremen speak, right? Yeah. But it's like a lot of it's made up words, right? And I understand in the book that's what he did, but I'm not reading the Dune book. I'm playing a video game, and she's like trying to tell me the history of their people, and so I'm having like an acid trip about the history of their people, and this woman's calling me Wally and saying Bila Kaifa over and over, and then like the reward for my acid vision quest is like a stick that compacts sand. It's like just a piece of technology. Like it's not even force powers. I'm not even a Jedi. I'm just like, here's this, you can collect sand to make silicone blocks out of.
Yeah, there's a sense of grandiosity that's kind of is like I made a very good cutscene. it doesn't really translate to gameplay.
Well, and like it's like you walk through these zones, and the first time you experience it, you play like red light, green light with these giant eyeballs that are like a symbolism thing, and you're like, I'm not really listening to this woman talk and flip flop between made up Arabic and English, but like, you know, the mini game's all right, but then when you've done it for the 8th time, and you're just like, when do I play the game?
This.
When do I? Can someone inform me? Can someone pick up? I need a worm update. What's the worm up to? Like,
this sounds like when THQ had to make money for their next game, so they made a property based on like a movie.
Yeah,
it's like whenever they make that game, it's like, oh, the Simpsons game was actually a pretty decent game.
but that's my point, right? Like that's it's and then you finish the Fremen quest line. You go into a ruin where some woman who you have never encountered up till this point follows you around and narrates the history of the Fremen to you, right? And you solve some rudimentary puzzles that were never in the books or anything, and she narrates at you, which, by the way, piece of programming knowledge, just a recommendation, any developers, wannabe developers out there, if you are designing an NPC to follow me around and narrate, her vocal volume should be tied to the voice slider, not the environmental slider.
Oh.
I could barely hear her half the time, and if I wanted to turn down the loud thrumming of the environment, because for some reason caves thrum in video games, I would also not hear her. The voice line thing was only for cutscenes or conversations where the camera now is like, Mass Effect style. And I'm like, it was awful. But then after that ended, I went to Harco Village where the fat, bald, pale people live, and all of a sudden I got involved in political intrigue. And now I've been playing this game, I got like 50 hours in the game, and now finally we're starting to ask questions about the intro to the game where some Bene Gesserit woman does the iconic needle to my neck for some reason. We're doing the test of humanity for some reason, except she wasn't doing the test of humanity. We never put our fingies in the box in that cutscene. She's just holding it because everyone remembers that from Dune.
Oh, she's not there. You're not experiencing the worst pain possible.
No, she's just telling me my job. She's telling me what my mission is. Your mission is to find the Fremen, wake the sleeper, whatever that means. And now what happened in that scene is finally being discussed with some political guy where he was like, oh, it seems that you've been like mentally programmed to have a violent reaction to my face. That's why I'm talking to you remotely, because clearly you've been like indoctrinated, but you don't know why and we don't know why. So I'm going to have you be a double agent. And now you're involved in like political. Now the game's interesting.
I'm going to bring up 2 Ubisoft games that actually did some interesting things with story. The original Prince of Persia, the prince was telling you his story as you were going through the adventure. So
he was the narrator, yeah.
So if you died, he was like, no.
That's not what happened.
And that was very funny.
Yeah, that's very funny.
And very cool way to tell a story. And Splinter Cell Conviction, while not the greatest game, had a very interesting way of telling story. Instead of cutscenes, it kind of just projected the scene on the wall, and you could walk past and continue playing the game, but like all the text was like kind of silhouetted as you were going through the level. And that was a very cool thing that no one else has done in video games. It's like,
you know what I was thinking about while you were talking, I forgot the name of the game, and maybe you guys will remember. There's a game where you're like a kid with like white hair and a big hammer, and there's a narrator narrating everything you do.
Bastion?
Bastion, thank you. Yeah, I love Bastion because I love that everything I did, the narrator had some sort of like matter-of-fact description of it. Kid raged for a moment, and all I'm doing is like breaking pots because there's pots to break.
Yes, Supergiant did that with Hades as well. They do that with a lot of their games.
I like it. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways you can talk about story, but I think that I guess the real reason I brought up like Dune Awakening is it's just like it's sort of the quintessential example of what you called. It's just like someone listed a bunch of tags. So like, well, we need it to be massively multiplayer, PvP, survival, RPG, shooter, We need vehicles, but that if we just call it like Sand World, no one's gonna like it. Dune. We'll get the Dune IP. We'll have the worm, and then all of the React streamers can see the worm and go, "There he is! It's the worm!" And we have both kinds of worm. They put the worms from the book, and then out in the PvP zone, the giant, sand-toothed, whale-toothed, a worm from the movies.
And they'll never be as like cool as telling the story in the original Prince of Persia, because they had an idea. This would be like Arabian Nights. The person is telling you a story. They even did it in the third Prince of Persia, Two Thrones. A third lady was telling your story, and then the prince was like lamenting. It was like, oh, it was horrible. The carts here, they used to have this cellar. What happened to him?
Remember the intro to the first Borderlands, when Borderlands had like soul and was a good game, and it's literally just a guy telling a story to kids about the Vault Hunters?
Yeah, that
was fun. I like that. And then when you finish the game, he finishes telling the story and says that'll be a story for next time. When you do the DLC, it loads him with him telling a story of the DLC.
Yeah, it felt like the storytelling being part of the game should be how games are made, but nowadays it's just an afterthought. We need mechanics. These are the mechanics that people like in their video games. We need to hit checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. And then once we have all these checkbox, then we'll slap on there's all this Dune stuff, I guess. And then you like it, right? It's like,
exactly.
Destiny did this as well. It's like any game that just has like, hey, there's all these lore pages that you could read up on. It was like, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that, it sort of all comes together, right? Because like we've talked about Kenshi, and Kenshi has a lot of lore, but there's no story. The story is what's the story? What is your character? Your character's just like a guy.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do, right? And so the story is sort of just like where you go is your story. I don't think that necessarily every game needs to be story forward, but if it's not going to be, right, then you're gonna need to be like giving me something really unique, right? The thing that what am I here for? And that's the thing that should be refined. And the problem is if the story, the mechanics, the lore, all of the features, even the objectives are all an afterthought. What am I here for? Which of these features is the thing that's going to make me stay in the game? I'll tell you what made me play Dune Awakening and what eventually stopped me playing. What made me play was I like base building. I'm very autistic when it comes to that. I used to play the Sims games, and I would just give myself a ton of money and then design mansions. I didn't really, and then I'd like watch my sim live there for a little bit and get bored because I don't actually care about the sim and go build a new house. And the expansions that let me like do other things, like, oh, I'm excited to like make a hotel. I'm excited to make a mall. Like I'm just here to do architecture. I just want to be an architect. And so I like building bases. When my friends and I play multiplayer survival slop, everyone just kind of goes, let me go farm materials so Kevin can build, right? And I like that. So once I built my base and finished the material progression, I had everything. I was like, well, hey guys, I started a guild. You all just joined the game. Here's the house. I'm giving you all access. I'm going to go play RimWorld.
This kind of makes me sad because the original Fortnite was a base building tower
defense game. Yeah.
And I was really excited for that. Then the Battle Royale became popular. And I was like, oh, well, that game you were making originally, when is that going to come out?
When's that going to come out? Yeah, the Save the World mode, which was originally just the game, was a cool concept. And it's funny that the game is called Fortnite, as in like it's a pun on a fortnight, a measurement of time, and a night of building a fort. And as Fortnite stands, none of those concepts are actually a primary part of the game. People do not have a overnight fortress. They have no build mode that is more popular than build mode. So there are no forts at all. It is not at night. Like nothing about the game, and it's a short-lived battle royale experience. Nothing about the game and its name are aligned anymore.
Yeah.
Instead, it's Peter Griffin and Marshmallow killing Goku.
That's kind of ruined the idea of the crossover as well. It's like, why do I care that Peter Griffin is here? Was he not before?
Someone telling me that they're playing as John Wick and that's what really excited them. I'm like, you're not playing as John Wick though. You're playing as just like a guy in a battle royale who looks like John Wick, because John Wick, you just died. John Wick wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I'm playing as Batman. No, you're not. Batman wouldn't shoot a gun.
Well, you just died, so you're playing as John Wick's dog, not as John Wick.
Is that not a skin? That should be a skin.
John Wick's dog. You can't hold a gun. You die at the first shot.
Yeah.
Damn, that was dark. I like that though.
You know, I think Fortnite has like the Roblox thing with different worlds. Someone's probably made that into a thing.
You know what's weird? They made the Peter Griffin, the buff Peter Griffin, so they didn't have to change the silhouette, and then added fat characters to the game. So they added buff Peter Griffin because they didn't want to change the model and the hitboxes, but then they did it anyway with a different character later.
Now they can put fat Peter.
Now they can put fat, but oh my god, this is like brain rot. I don't know why we're talking about this. I hate Epic Games.
Yeah, Epic Games is. It's funny. I liked Epic Games more when they weren't successful.
Yeah.
As horrible as that sounds, because they actually had an Unreal game that was pretty fun.
Do you remember when Gears of War was good?
Yeah.
You can hear the sadness in his voice.
Well,
his smile and optimism gone.
It's like when 343, the only good thing 343 did for Halo is bringing back the old Halo games.
It's true. Yeah, well, I think sort of the quintessential core of, I guess, what we're talking about, and you tell me if you agree, is what's happened is that companies have gotten too big. They're not run by people who want the thing that they're creating, and they have too much wealth to see the consequences of their repeated bad decisions. So they're just sort of like circling the drain, but never failing in a way that hurts.
I think the most important thing is also that I believe customers are starting to see that now.
Finally, I am starting to think that's true. No, I more and more, I have friends who always make excuses. They go out and buy a console and they make an excuse for it. And I think that the amount of excuses I'm hearing have really reduced. Nobody is trying to convince me anymore that it's a good idea, that they're making a good decision, right? They're just starting to realize they still exist, but a lot of people have started to go, yeah, you're right.
A friend of mine has been looking forward to the new like Metroid Prime forever, and now that he's seen the Switch 2, he's said to me constantly like, yeah, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I don't care. It's actually very interesting too. I had this conversation the other day. Someone said to me, well, the one thing I like about consoles is I like the option of just going and playing on my living room TV. And I was like, I can build you a computer that'll allow you to play the games you're playing in your living room for the same price as a console, because modern consoles are too expensive. Yeah. Back when a console was $300 and a PC that could run games was $800, that was a different discussion. But now consoles are $800, $1,000, and I can build you a computer for $600 that'll run that game. Maybe not at the highest level, but you can leave it in your living room. Heck, with Steam, I can literally just stream the games on my computer to the TV in my living room.
Yeah, and the thing is, modern GPUs aren't even worth it anymore. You can get like 1 or 2 generations back. CPUs have been fast forever. It's rarely worth it to get a new one.
No, it's only worth it if you're building a new computer. If you're building a new computer, and because like I have seen where like this CPU that's 2 generations old and this one are the same price, but this one is just better because it's newer. Okay, fine, right? Go new, right? But like, I'm not going to spend $3,000 on the latest bullshit graphics card because my 2080 that I bought 10 years ago, or however long it's been, not 10 years ago, I don't know. How long ago was when we lived all together, Michael?
2080 would have been like, I don't know, like 2019 or something.
Yeah, okay, so 2019, so like 6 years ago or whatever. Like, it's still ultra. It's still running everything on ultra.
Yeah,
the resources that are failing are never the graphics card. Never my GPU that's maxed out when a game is like unoptimized.
Even when the 2080 came out, I bought a 1080 Ti.
Yeah, why not?
because it was just the better idea. The 2080 was overpriced, and now the 1080 Ti is out. Do the same now, because like what are the new graphics cards gonna get you? In fact, the 5090 is worse than like the 4090 because it can't run 32-bit DX. What is it? The physics,
PhysX, yeah.
it can't run PhysX on older games. So if you play like the original Arkham game, you go through like a very, it was like particly area, like very smoky area. It will run like shit.
That's so weird. Yeah, it's actually strange. It's like, well, what happened is Nvidia made too much money off of AI stuff. And so they shifted all their focus there, and so now they
No, they hate that they're a gaming company. They've
Yeah,
hated being a gaming company for a very long time.
well, the problem is nobody's rivaling them. Intel just kind of every day they just kind of punch themselves in the face and pass out and develop nothing. And then like, one guy who's like an intern, he's been there for like 2 weeks, like he'll glue together the parts of a graphics card and call it one. And then like AMD, I don't know, man. I don't know what their deal is.
They won't twist the fucking knife. They won't twist the knife. They could have killed. They had the biggest chance. Nvidia made the shittiest 60 series card ever this generation. And AMD's big idea was like, yeah, we'll make a slightly better version. Why couldn't you just kill them?
Here's the thing. I remember, because I've had a few, Michael was one of them. I've had a few friends who all were like, it's just a better deal to get this AMD card. AMD cards have come a long way. And here's what I said. I said, I wish you were right. You are going to have problems. And everybody argued against me. And then later.
Can confirm.
Many problems. It was always these subtle things. And the problem is that they were unfixable because the amount of support for AMD is just much lower. And so it sucks. It's like this company that doesn't want to be what it is makes the only product worth having.
Yeah. And even they're kind of slacking on their drivers recently too.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's get back to the main topic.
Well, personally, I feel that we have. Is there anything else you want to express on this topic? I think we've derailed, derailed, triple railed each other.
That was fun.
That was fun. Yeah, that happened during that weird jump cut that no one's going to notice. But I don't really have anything else to say on the topic. I think it is clear that companies are circling the drain, but they're never going to finish getting flushed because they have too much money from other sources. So they just shuffle executives, none of which like video games, none of which want to make good video games, none of which can stand up to their bosses, and they keep just making shit and hoping that if they just throw in another gimmick or another social issue, if they put up their pride flag during Pride Month, if they introduce the latest sassy female main character, or in the inverse, if they make the next blow up doll with a big sword, whatever thing they've latched onto other than making a good game, that's going to somehow one day make them their billions.
I think the big thing that I get from this is that even other companies have lost their trust in like Microsoft, because who wouldn't want a deal from Microsoft to become part of their gaming division? Who wouldn't want another deal? We haven't talked about this, from Embracer Group to like become part of them, but it is shown constantly that their IPs, their babies are getting destroyed,
and then everyone's getting fired.
So I'm starting to think, next time Xbox sees a very successful company that's developing, will they accept the offer?
Yeah. You want to know the problem? They probably will, because it's like one or two people who actually own 90% of the companies, and they want their $1 billion. That's what really happens. This is the truth that we don't like, is that someone starts something, they hire a bunch of people. Now they got 100 people working for them. They really care about those people. But then a big guy who says, hey, I'm going to purchase and then just delete your organization. At least that's the implication. I'm not going to tell you that. Do you want $1 billion? Now, right now, they're paying themselves a livable wage, but they could, for the value of their organization, have $1 billion. And that's an offer that they can't refuse. So they sell it. But the employees that they hired, they're just employees. They don't see any of that. They sell it, they make their money, and they have $1 billion, and then Microsoft has it or whoever, and then that group fires everyone, right? And even that guy may have seen that coming, but it's nearly impossible for someone to turn down $1 billion because the employees don't own the company. Maybe they own like 2% or a fraction of a percent, you know?
They're probably not even an open company. But
well, they don't need to be open. You can sell equity
Yeah.
to people without it being like up on the stock market.
I'd be very interested if in the future, instead of selling their whole company, they'll make another company and migrate people over and just sell like
The IPs.
the IPs and the name of the company.
Maybe. But that would also change the offer, right? Oh, I will buy the whole company or I'll buy your IP. One's $1 billion, one's $100 million. You have to understand how much money $1 billion is. You know, when Microsoft offers some company $3 billion and it's got two owners, like the two of them are just like, you know, that's your children's children are going to be set.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like you could start 3 more companies with that much money. You know, people don't really understand orders of magnitude.
$1 billion is a lot of money.
$1 billion is a lot of money. Anyway, I have nothing else to say. Do you have anything else you'd like to cover?
I hope everything crashes.
I'm not even being mean. I think that from the ashes, good things can come. But I think a lot of things that exist right now have to come crashing down.
Yes.
Whether that's socio-political or economic or businesses.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I wish will crash down. But in this case, video games.
In this case, video games. Well, if you made it to the end and you handled how erratic we were today in our subject matter, please leave us a comment. Let us know that you enjoyed the episode. You know, I'm looking at you, Bottle. I'm looking at you, Steel Zipper. I mention them every time because they're the ones I always remember. But either way, thank you so much for watching.
You could always make it so you remember someone else.
You could be the other guy I remember.
The third. Who's gonna be the mysterious third guy?
Mysterious stranger who will no longer be a stranger because I remember who you are. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.